Greetings everyone, welcome to this new video. We're gonna take a look at my one Exalted Shaper kill challenge. This is something I've been doing for the last leagues. It's been very well received by people. So what it entails is that I take one Exalted, I transfer it to Chaos, and I buy all the different gear pieces. So I basically start from scratch. I also downgrade my character to level 90, and I only use skill gems that are level 20 with no quality on them. So there's no expensive parts. I do not buy any expensive gear or anything like that. This is to better simulate how it is to be a newer player. And I will go through all these steps that goes into it. And we even go through how I buy some of the gear. I show all my traits and everything like that. So hopefully it goes by the old saying, give a man a fish and feed him for a day, or teach a man to fish and feed him for a lifetime. So hopefully by me doing this, I can teach you how to create a really good meta build or following one of these, because they tend to be a little bit more expensive, but that's only if you pick the exact items that everyone else is after. And it's even easier in this league than it was in previous ones, because minion builds are extremely versatile when it comes to gear pieces. So let's get into the first part. For our first part, we're gonna talk about the important stats in this build. So there's a few key aspects that go into building any kind of character from scratch. First of all, we need a lot of survivability. That can either come from life or energy shield, or also maxing out your resistance and stuff like that. And you need to decide where you want to go with this. But maxing out your resistance is just a go-to every time. That means, if I go back to my build, that means that every stat here on this side, if you can see here, needs to be like this. This tells me I have 46 resistance. I maxed out all of them, but I really have in the parentheses I have a little bit over. So you want to have that number equal to each other, or this one in parentheses needs to be a little bit over. It's fine to be over because there's some mods on maps that can roll that makes your resistance lower, which is not a problem if you're running remove curse on use flask though. But we are gonna go into other things here. Every build has its own stats you want to search for, and this is where PoE database comes in. When I'm searching for something like here, and I'm gonna go through one of my searches, we can choose a ring here, for example. So what I do is I just click mods, come in here, and jewelry, and then rings, for example, depending on what gear piece you want. And here I can see it. We have prefixes on the left here, suffixes on the left. You can have 3 prefixes and 3 suffixes on any item. Altogether 6 affixes. And we are not gonna worry about anything below this level right here. The reason for that is it's specific bases. There's shaper bases that only drops in specific circumstances when you have shaper influence or elder influence, and delve affixes if you have fossil crafting and stuff like that. We do not worry about those. So we are just gonna focus on this, because this is where the cheaper aspect of the builds come out of, and you get plenty out of these anyway. This is just if you have some currency to spend. If you get this, good for you, then just go for it. But we are a life build. We already decided it's normally the cheaper way to go about it, and we're gonna look here. For the rings, the maximum is 70, so why not just write in life here, and this is the difference here. You can see that it says pseudo total maximum life, and here it just says 2 maximum life. And the difference here is that this one calculates everything. So that means the life on the ring plus the strength if it has so. Because strength, every 2 strength you gain 1 extra life. So it calculates that into the same thing. So if it has, for example, 70 life on the ring and then 20 in strength, that means it's gonna calculate that as 80. But this one, the lower one, is gonna only calculate that as 70. So we're just gonna utilize this search engine. I'm usually using this one, the pseudo one, because it calculates for me. I don't need to look at the strength stats and then calculate for myself. Then of course we need resistance. Resistance needs to be capped, like we already talked about. And we're gonna the same thing here. We're gonna go with pseudo. It takes from all sources and calculates it together. We can go with 60. Maybe it's too much. We will see in a second. Energy shield. And again, total maximum energy shield. We can take 30. It's much lower. Again, we can go in here and check how much is it. Well, it goes up to 47. So 30 is probably a good number to just start off with. Maybe 35. And we click here. Oops, sorry, rings. Don't forget the ring. And click. So now, when we have done this, we can see the price points are pretty good already. And I can already see that the better one is going to be this one. And this is what I'm going to explain now. I'm always clicking in one extra thing here. Empty suffixes. There was a menu here before, but they took it away in last league. I don't know why. It's kind of a silent nerf in this engine, but it's in here now. So I'm gonna click in one here. That means all the items I'm searching for right now has an open suffix. This one has an open suffix, but it's already crafted, so we don't want to worry about this one because it's already been crafted. It's already been calculated in to all elemental resistance here. So we're gonna worry about the ones that have not been touched by any craft, like this one. It has high energy shield, high life. It has elemental resistance, very good. So it also already meets our criteria. Plus, we can go to our crafting bench here and just go down here to all of our suffixes, and we can craft 28 to any of the reses, or 32 if we use these instead. That means we're gonna have extremely much better ring, and we can fill in all the gaps. So if I'm if I'm having problem getting the extra fire res, so when I bought all my gear I realized, oh, I don't have much in fire res, then you can just fill in those gaps by using, like I did here with my gloves and my feet, because I've already bought all my gear. I left those suffixes open. I left all suffixes open on every gear piece here, and then I just, as soon as I fit in the resistance I needed, I realized, okay, I can just do certain stats right now that benefit the defense or the DPS of the build. So that is basically the process. I'm gonna go through one real fast one. It's the wand, because it's a new addition to 3.8, and it's the Convoker wand. We don't need to write it in because Convoker wand is the only one that can roll the minion damage mods. So we're gonna start with minion, and we're gonna write in 50 approximately. It's a good number. You just need to tweak these numbers until you get to the price point where you want to be. If you have less currency, you go lower. If you have more currency, you write more in those categories. So minion, and we're gonna go with attack speed. Attack speed is not the important one. We want the cost speed, but because I don't want to scroll down, because attack speed and cost speed is hybrid mod. You can see here it's tied together. It has the same, if you look here at the side, you can see they have the same name on them. That means it counts as one, and it goes up to 25, I believe. So we're gonna look at 19 and above, and now we see, okay, we have a lot of cheap options here. That is good, but again, we want a specific mod on our wand. It's trigger socket spell when you use a skill. So I click here, it's a suffix which we need to craft. That means our item needs an open suffix. Again, I'm gonna write suffix here. Empty suffix modifiers, click it, write 1 here, and Let's see. Voila. I have a really good one here with even extra resistance. Much cheaper than the one I bought. Probably better also in all aspects. Actually, it's like 15k cheaper than the one I bought. So, this is how you do it. You basically just go about finding one, and you buy this one, and then you craft on the stats you want. This is the whole process I'm going through. And as always, I'm gonna leave all my trade links in the description. So if you don't want to click in all these boxes by yourself, then you can just click on the links below. On top of this, if you want cheaper items, you have to log in and activate live search, because then you can get items as soon as they get up on the trade site. So this is the, if you have some time over, or if you want some specific upgrade, I suggest you open up like 5 different tabs here and then just do a live search on all the items. This is how you get the best out of each one, and you can set a limit to how much you want to spend. So 40 chaos, for example. You have a 40 chaos budget, then you only get items that are worth 40 chaos or less. So let's go to the next part. Now when you have seen all the different trades I just did, we are gonna take a closer look at what I actually bought from there. All the different trades that I did will be presented in the description, so you can yourself go and search on the same and get the same results that I just did. And also my path of building will be in the description, so all of that will be presented for you if you choose to use it. Some of the stats I could not add into the path of building, so like for example, unending hunger is a very good DPS boost, but it does not show up on path of building, so you can expect a little bit more DPS than what is presented. So let's start with our unique items, because you don't need these, but they're very inexpensive, I think, and they boost the build quite heavily. For example, Victoria's Charity is like made for minion builds. It has life, resistance, chaos res, and most importantly, it has chance to grant power charge on nearby allies on kill, and chance to grant frenzy charge on nearby allies on hit. So together with the node Necromantic Aegis here, all bonus from equipped shield apply to your minions instead of you. That means when your minions hit, you are gonna get the power charges. All the other minions are gonna get the power charges and the frenzy charges. That means that everyone has a lot of movement speed, a lot of more damage, and it's good all around. It's just more all around. For 1 chaos, that is a cheap bargain, especially now when we do not need a two-handed kind of option, because we have a wand here to go with. So definitely a must if you're going for the budget version. Second one, Unending Hunger, is a little bit more expensive, 25 chaos, but it gives a lot. It gives a lot of it, cost speed and attack speed here, and you can look this one up what the buff's actually giving you, but it's well worth it. It's just not calculated into path of building, and which is a sad part, because I would like to see how much it actually buffs my build, but it does a lot. And you can just go for any of the other jewels, an extra one if you want to, if you can't afford it for the moment. Anatomical knowledge also gives us some extra life, some extra survivability in that manner. So both of these, for unending hunger, it's going to be this slot right here, and for anatomical knowledge, we're going to put it in this one. Make sure it's this one, or they're not going to activate, or this one is not going to activate, and this one is not going to be at full potential. So that's very important to go with. Next, we are going to go through our more expensive gear pieces, which is obviously the 6 link. The thing you want to search on, and why I put in the specific search results in the description so you just can click them, is that because we're going to need 6 blue sockets on here, we need a gear piece that has energy shield on it, because that makes it easier to roll blue sockets. So make sure you don't buy a piece which does not have, it has all the right stats, but it does not have any energy shield, because then it's going to be impossible to roll the right. It's not impossible, but highly improbable. You're going to spend multiple Exalted to just get 6 off colors. Yeah, it's not worth it. So now we just want high life, high energy shield, and yeah, I have some dodge also, some bonus stats if you want to. For our wand, we just want to go with the minion damage, cost speed. There's other stats like minion life, minion movement speed, minion accuracy, minion resistance. All those stats can be rolled on the wand, but these are the ones that I went with, so this is the ones that boost my damage the most. And the minions doesn't really need any of the other stats, because they are very strong anyway at max level, so don't worry about them dying. I've done both Uber Elder and Shaper multiple times, and they never die basically. At least you're not your Spectres. For the next one, and of course we need trigger socketed spells if you have it. If you have the craft, it's not needed, but that means that all the triggered spells here, that means you don't need to cast them yourself. That's less button for you to push, so it's very neat. For your boots, we just need high movement speed to get around faster. If you can get some high life, some energy shield again. We kind of want energy shield on every single piece here, because we need a lot of blue sockets for every skill gem. So just make your coloring more easy and just buy things with energy shield. And we're stacking energy shield anyway for this build, because we are gaining some easy access to increased energy shield percentage. So just stack as an extra defense. Otherwise, just resistance if we can have, some stats if we can. For our helmet, same thing here, some resistance, max life, and I was lucky enough to find one with +2 to level socket minion gems. If you can do that also, then you can also craft minion have increased maximum life, but you can also go with the resistance or any other stat you want. But some extra survivability for your minions is never bad. For your gloves, same thing here, some extra stats if you can, and life, energy shield, and just fill up on the resistance you're missing. Go up to your belt. I would probably go with a Stygian Wise, but yeah, I did not, because I already bought it when I figured it out, and I left a link in the description for that one also, so multiple choices here. And I just ran out of time basically. I already bought it and I didn't want to go through another trade. Same thing here, if you have some chaos rest, that would also be nice. Then just fill up with the whatever suffix you need. I didn't need any more resistance, so I just filled it up with something else. For our amulet, I like to have the craft increase maximum energy shield if I'm running energy shield. So that is 20% extra, which is very high. Otherwise, just life, resist. This goes for all of these. As you can see here, rings can craft the increased movement speed, which means that you have better clear speed with all your minions. They keep up with you much better. So I will leave these ones open for those kind of crafts. For our gems, or jewels, sorry, it's gonna be our abyss jewels. I find these the best, honestly, and we want to maximum life, energy shield if we can. And I've left links in the description again with much more stats than I have on these. So there's tons of stats you can have, and I made the trouble to type in most of the ones that I find important. For our flasks, we are just gonna fill in the gaps with so we have one that takes care of bleeding, one takes care of curses, one takes care of where is it? Freeze. Those are the three most important ones. If you can have one with shock on it also, that is also quite important. And otherwise we are gonna go with a divine life flask, and we want the one that gives instant life, because we have high life pool and we want to click it and directly get a burst of life instead of just waiting for it. Also, as one mod here grants to life recovery to minions, which might be a good one. That is a new one for this league. I did not know about this one before I started rolling this flask. So I just bought the bases and then just start alteration spam them. And it doesn't take a lot. It takes a few alterations and it's done. Let's go in order here. Basalt Flask gives an additional physical damage or in melee range and you are getting hit. Then of course is a good flask to be had. It's probably our weakest spot, physical damage, so better go with that. Curse immunity, when you're running maps, there's a lot of curse mods on them, which means that as soon as this one is active through the whole process, you are not gonna be bothered with that. That's temporal chains, that is elemental weakness, all those stats that just goes away. Extremely good to have, both for clear speed and for survivability. Silver Flask Onslaught gives movement speed, cast speed, and all of those good stuff. And I went with increased movement speed because it rolled one of those. So when I'm hitting this, I get extremely much more movement speed, which is good for clear. And otherwise, we have the Stibnite Flask. There's also one with dodge on it, another flask that you can also go with. I can't remember the name right now. And we just want to go with the freeze here. Oh, I see, I forgot to put on an extra stat on it. It doesn't really matter. But the smoke cloud makes you less visible to the enemies, which means that they're not going to hit you very often. So all of these gear pieces are super important for the build. And of course, if you have an animated guardian, sadly I could not equip my animated guardian because it retains the... I bought a few new gems for this and put it in, and I realized it has the same items that I have on my build, and my animated guardian has 4 Exalted worth of gear on it, and of course that would throw off the results of this. So I opted to play without an animated guardian, so you are gonna be even more buffed than I was, much more. And these are the gear pieces. I suggest you watch my animated guardian video to get more information about these gear pieces, and it was 18 chaos that you just put into your animated guardian. All of this adds up to 184 because I estimated I used 30 chaos. I just added up and approximated, but it's probably much less than 30 chaos, but we're still under 185 chaos, which is an exalted orb, or that is probably more than. So we're under our budget, and I just, again, you don't need the more expensive pieces here like Unending Hunger or even this good of a Convoker Bond as you saw on my trading part or important stats part. So let's go over to the next one. The passive skill tree is going to be our next part to talk about. I've chosen these specific paths because I think it gives us the most out of the points we have. There's some key things we want out of this build, and I'm going to talk about that right now fast. We obviously want all the minion nodes like Death Attunement. We want to reach this kind of wheel out here, Redemption and Righteous Army. Those are very good for the stats. Same ones with the Sacrifice and Spirit Command. If I had enough currency and I would anoint something, I would use Ravenous Horde as anointing on my with the oils on my amulet, so there's something to keep in mind. But obviously you need opalescent, whatever it's called, 2 of those, and that would break my budget already. It's like 25 each. Necromancer gets Aegis we need for the shield to work very well. If you have a better animated guardian, you might get away with not using it, but right now with this build we are using it, and it's pretty good. It keeps all the stats consistent. It's a huge damage boost. Otherwise we want also elemental equilibrium, because we're hitting the enemy, which we're talking about in the skill gem section, with some damage, and it's gonna be cold and fire, mostly cold. And as long as when you hover over here and it doesn't say lightning, then we're good, because now it gives us, when we hit the enemy, we hit the enemy, not the minions. That means they are gonna get minus 50 resistance to all other elements. That means to lightning, that is, which is very good, because there's a lot of damage in one node there. Otherwise we pick up some nodes down here just for some extra survivability. It's only life nodes, and some to maximum resistance, which is very strong node also. Pick up all the jewel nodes on the way so we can put them in. Make sure you put in the jewels in the right sockets here, so you get the maximum amount of them. And this one doesn't even activate if you put them on other spots. You could put it here, of course, but other spots not so good. This one I might actually get rid of if in my new build. Otherwise I think I covered all the different spots. You can either pause the video and just take a look at my skill tree in your own leisure, or use my path of building. We are also gonna go through real fast the ascendancies. I won't go down here, and obviously this gives some extra damage and everything. Really good node, but this one is insanely good because it buffs our minions to extra minion gems, and we have so many minions in this build, so that is gonna be a lot of extra damage. You need this one. And Bone Barrier gives us elemental resistance, so even if you're not capped at your elemental resistance, you're gonna get 30 extra elemental resistance on all the different parts. So, and then energy shield recovery, minion maximum life, and bone armor is very good skill. Is down here. It gives us 2209 extra like defense. That means it's like 2200 extra life on your build, which is extremely powerful, and it makes you even tankier. Not that we needed it, but it's there for one click, and it doesn't cost anything. And cooldown 3 seconds, so that is extremely good. And I forgot one, and then it's up to you. It's either this one, Commander of Darkness, Plaguebringer, but I went with Mystery of Sacrifice, because that means the offering skills, and we use it flesh offering. I get the extra movement speed and cast speed and attack speed from the offering skills. There's other ones also that gives you energy shield, and there's one will give you extra block chance and stuff like that. But if you want DPS, then flesh offering is probably the way to go. It is the way to go. So that was the skill tree. Just take your time perusing it. It makes your own adjustment, whatever you need. If you need more resistance, then take some resistance nodes on here. If you need more life, then take more life nodes. So let's go over to next. For our skill gems, we're gonna start with our main setup, which is our Spectres, which is the brunt of our force here. Every Spectre on Path of Building has about over 1 million in damage, and we have 4 of them, so that's 4 million damage just from the Spectres, and that is not including animated guardian buffs, which we could not equip. That is the empty slot there. And also some of the other stats that can't be calculated, as like unending hunger and stuff like that, the jewel, which gives a huge boost to us. But let's start with this one, Ray Spectre. All of these should be qualityed up, because most of these gems gives extremely good. You can probably squeeze out about 500,000 more out of each Spectre just from using quality on your gems on these. So that is definitely recommended. But we have Ray Spectres linked with element of focus, concentrated effect, feeding frenzy gives us a buff, nice buff to all our minions. and also makes our Spectre go out there and further away, which means it's an extra defensive boost on top of it, so they are further away and just attacking everything. They go nuts. Spell Echo is probably the strongest one here, because it just, yeah, it makes them more cost speed. Cost speed is such a strong stats for all Spectres. And minion damage, of course, it just makes sense. For a second one, if you choose to go with the trigger socketed spells, I chose to go with Desecrate. That means wherever, I don't know how many seconds it's between, but they generate corpses on the ground. Then my flesh offering is activating, because they're activated in the order they're socketed. So that means that I don't need to click the flesh offering myself, and I don't need any kills to make it activate, because I generate my own corpses. Then I summon skeletons, which doesn't need any corpses, and I also can hit Val skeletons when I'm on Blight encounters, for example. It boosts my damage, like 40 skeletons just pop out, and then I can stand at the pump and just relax. And the same on bosses, I click this button. So this is the setup. Definitely I recommend. This is like huge quality of life. That means I have no clicking a button of any offering skills. I don't need to worry about my skeletons. It's just gonna pop up 10 at a time, or 10 all the time. It's gonna be active, so really good one right there. Then I have my Curse on Hit setup. I have it linked with Elemental Weakness. So when I hit my Winter Orb button, it's gonna shoot out missiles, hitting the enemies, and it's gonna curse them with Elemental Weakness. So it's animated basically, and it's also gonna help me when I'm doing this. You can see here, I'm just clicking my right mouse button, and you can see it's summoning and doing flesh offerings and stuff like that, just by me using the Winter Orb. If you're channeling, it's not gonna do it, but you're gonna get max stats anyway on this. So very good there. I also have my Phase Run, because I have an empty slot in here. So Phase Run gives you some extra movement speed. It also makes you harder to be seen by other enemies, and yeah, it just synergizes very well with this build, because you want to run fast for the clear speed and everything else. Then I use a portal gem here. You can use it in a secondary setups, like your secondary weapon setup, but we honestly do not need that. I think we have the gem slots to it. I just find it easier to use. You can switch over if you want. Then we have the Chaos Golem here, linked with Meat Shield. That means they're gonna taunt the enemies. That means they're gonna do less damage to you and more damage to the Chaos Golem, which is basically invincible. And it also gives you a boost to physical damage, which is definitely our weakest part. But it's not anymore, because we have buff from both Flask, Tree, and Meat Shield and everything else there. And Convocation is very important here. It does not need to be linked. What it does is it brings all your minions to you. So when you click that button, they gain some regen, and they all teleport to you. So if you're running into a large pack or a boss area, you can summon all of them on top of the boss. And that means they don't focus on any other enemy. So I'm clicking this all the time when I'm running around. It just makes your minion keep up with you much better. Then we have the helmet, which should have the animated guardian right there. Elemental army gives your all your minions a little bit more resistance, which means they're gonna survive, because you do not want your animated guardian to die. It's not gonna die. It has like 60,000 life, so plus all the other defenses it has. But, and most important, it means that it's gonna debuff -10 to elemental damage. That means when my minions here, my race zombies and my animated guardian hits an enemy, boss for example, that means -10 to elemental. So that is extra damage boost for everyone in this build. And then I'm using Physical to Lightning, I don't know, add an extra gem, and it gives some extra damage and so on. So very good setup here, and these are the items that I use for animated guardian, by the way. In my shield I have Generosity, which means that whatever aura I choose to use, it's going to my minions and not me, because we're not doing any damage. Our minions are doing all the damage. So Wrath gives a lot. more spell damage is a good multiplier, and yeah, you definitely want that one. Or you can go with Zealotry also if you want some more survivability, I guess. But yeah, I went with Wrath and Summon Skitterbots. I know you're probably thinking, why are you using this one? But trust me, it shocks the enemy. That means they take, this is the keyword here, they take 20% more damage. That's calculated after everything. Increased is the lowest rung, more is the second, and the highest one is take. So when you're calculating damage and you see increased is not as good as more, but the best one is take. So shock is very good, it also shields the enemies, and it's even more than 20% because it also gets more shock effect per each level. So this one is extremely good, and it's only 35% reservation. So that means you can have 2 auras and still have leftovers to cast whatever spells you have. Those were all my skill gems, and let's go over to the next. For our Pantheons, we are gonna go with Soul of Linares and Soul of Shakiri. There's nothing to talk about really here. Movement speed and some also the chaining is very good here on this one. Avoid protectors that have chain, because they're gonna hit your enemies with whatever skill, and then it's gonna chain off to you. This means you are avoiding those attacks, which is very good. So this one is definitely a keeper, and there's not anything better than on the minor ones as Soul of Shakari, because immune to poison, that means you don't need to worry about any of those mods. And chaos damage is probably something that we have not focused on yet, which means that it's gonna mitigate those kind of attacks. Also for bandits, we just kill them all and get the 2 extra passive points, because you can utilize those much better than whatever stats, because there's no stats really boosting our minion damage anyway. So let's go and watch me kill this Shaper. I want to thank you for watching my video. It's a little bit long, I know, but this is the only way I know to cram in as much information into this video as I can. So I hope you can put a like on this video and subscribe for my channel for future content just like this. And if you have any questions, put them in the description and I will try to get back to you as fast as I can. And as always, have an awesome day everyone.